Lovely people out here. Appreciate you all coming here and not going to lunch. Really, really appreciate that. I know it's super exciting to talk about the fastest ramping product in HP storage history. So give it up for Alletra MP right now. All right? Not only that, it is rated in the Gartner Magic Quadrant as in the leadership quadrant. You know, if you look at the leadership quadrant and Gartner, only product offering in its short debut about a year and a half was rated in the leadership quadrant over the solutions out there that have been there for 10, 15 years. That speaks volume of what this particular product can do. And I'm so excited to talk about this. Before we get started, let me ask you a couple of things. Bookkeeping items first. There are some forward-looking statements, there are architectural statements, so please keep that in mind. And today we're going to talk about two things. Right? I'll tell you why there is so much success and why this is changing the way storage systems are built, designed, and used, what value you can expect. But before I go there, a quick raise of hand. How many of you are actually end customers out here? How many of you are partners? And how many of my HP colleagues out here? Super. Right? You know, the reason why I want to know this is two things, right? For our end customers, you'll definitely hear from one of our customers into what they saw. For our partners, this is what you should be leading with, right? And for our HP fellows, let's go make this success. Let's keep ramping the product, and let's continue to win. And it starts with customers. The reason why there is so much success for this particular product is very simple. If you look at the dynamics of IT today, most of the customers who are out here will understand this because I talked to a lot of the customers, including multiple of them this 2 days. The common theme out here, and you can see this across the floor, is about AI and data. We've talked about this in every session as to how data is changing the way storage systems are built, storage systems are deployed, and what an important role storage plays when it comes to delivering solutions that are needed for you to derive meaningful insights from your data. AI is a means to get there, but to get there, you need your data, right? The second thing that we talk about is now we are focused on data. The security aspect of data, the governance around data, the regulatory compliance around data is a critical part. And lastly, we talked about the announcements today from Antonio. Like, you talked about the market-changing acquisitions, like what's happening with Broadcom, VMware, what we did with Morpheus, and how the landscape is changing and how it impacts your day-to-day IT operations and needs and your workloads. And lastly, but most important thing, is sustainability. We all want to make sure that we are environmentally and responsible and are contributing back. So everybody agree with this? Raise of hand. Like, these are the challenges, right, that we are trying to solve for. Now, the question here is, like I talked about, it starts with data. And the reason why this is very important to understand is if you look at data today, what does it mean? Like, I've been doing storage for the last 20, 25 years, right? And if you look at the history, right, data now, the way it's getting created, it is so distributed, right? You start from the edge. It can be in the cloud, in your data centers, in your colos. Not only that, the applications that are actually responsible for leveraging this data and creating the data are changing. Gone are the days of monolith applications that continue to exist, but the applications are getting more and more distributed, right? They are more microservices based. They are more cloud native. They put a tremendous stress on the storage systems in terms of what they can and expect from it, whether it's performance, scale, access, reliability, you name it. And that's impacting the way storage systems are built. We embarked in this journey about a few years ago in building this architecture, and we'll talk about that. But the landscape is changing around data, like we talked about the growth, we talked about the demand to keep up with the growth. But what is the fundamental problem out there is when this data is growing, right, and it's distributed, managing this data at scale is a problem. Data in the older storage, in the older world, like, when I was talking about 10 years, 15 years ago, or 20 years ago, you'll go to an IT guy and you talk to them and they'll tell you, what is your job? What is your responsibility? I need to make sure that my IT stays up and running and my applications are always up and running. Perfect. That was the definition of storage. It is a repository of value. I need to make sure it's up and running, otherwise I'll lose my job. You go and talk to the IT guys today. Now we have people in the roles of chief data officer, we have roles of different chief information officer. What is their role? I need to derive meaningful insight from my data so that I can convert it into a revenue stream. So what has happened is storage is becoming a creator of value. If you look at the fundamental definition of storage, if that is looked as creator of the value, then the existing legacy storage don't work. It will never work because it cannot deliver on that story. For the storage to deliver and be a creator of value, it needs to be having certain core capabilities. It has to be AI powered. I need to make sure that my IT guys are spending their time on most important things rather than firefighting and keeping the systems alive. I need to make sure the architecture of the storage system is not the same old legacy architecture that used to be there. It needs to be more modular. It needs to be more aligned with the needs and scale capability. It needs to be secure. It needs to be efficient, right? The definition of storage is changing, and we know that. We know success stories from our customers that when we do this, and when the customers do this, when data comes alive, there is an ability for the customer and that team to derive more and do more innovations. 37% say their productivity and the services launched last year will help them improve their innovation story. They made it became more agile. They were able to get to responses for their workloads much faster. They avoided time to resolution, 98% efficiency around that, and 2x the protection. That's why MP B10000 is different. That's what we're going to talk about. If you look at what HP is trying to do and what our approach is, it's very simple. We need to make sure that we optimize the fundamental resources, the building blocks of storage, right? We need to simplify the operations. We need to make sure that we accelerate some of the innovations. Now that you build the building blocks, foundational building blocks, let's accelerate the innovation so that you can drive the growth in the business that needs to happen. And the way we are doing that is very simple. This is an old slide, but very important slide to get grounded on things. It's like a 3-layer cake, right? When we talk about optimizing the resources, we're talking about fundamental building blocks of your infrastructure. Storage. This is where our common hardware platform, Alletra MP, comes into the picture. It's the design, it's the architecture, the ability to use the common hardware building block, the disaggregated nature, leveraging the NVMe fabric to deliver on a fundamental architecture that allows me to scale dynamically in multiple directions. And then taking the concept of different software stacks as SDS and running on that common infrastructure to deliver different services, block, file. You heard about the X10000 today, right? We talk about object. Along with the AI capabilities and the AI ops to make sure that your infrastructure is in the most optimal state, and then create value in terms of platform as a service, private cloud, AI, analytics, give you the whole story so that you can look at it holistically. Right? So let's talk about storage. Why is it important to think about differently? I think most of you guys, looks like, have been in the industry for quite some time, right? I've been doing this for 20 years, started my career at Sun. In the last 20 years, if you look at storage systems, they haven't changed. You have the basic construct of an HA pair. You have a box, you have 2 controllers, you have a midplane and drives attached to it. There were variations that came in over the years of time, like hyperconverged, to simplify the stack of application workloads along with the storage running it common. Then you talked about SDS, but what were the fundamental challenges that still persisted? Those systems were not efficient. Those systems created silos. When you talk about engineered systems, and every time you want to grow performance or scale capacity, you needed to buy more systems. If in the HCI world, you keep buying more servers, even though you don't need the performance or you don't need the capacity. And it was not possible for us to be more optimal because a lot of east-west traffic that would be created. In the day and age where we are today, with the advancement of NVMe technology and the ability to do this composable scale-out systems, that brings you the most optimal solution that allows you to take advantage of the innovations that are happening in compute, networks, disks, storage, media, and be able to package them together, compose them together to deliver what your workloads and applications need. That is the reason why Alletra MP B10000 or X10000 are different, right? So let me explain you what it works. So remember I told you about a system? Midplane, controllers, disk. Now reimagine the system. Imagine that you have this system, and your midplane, instead of a physical hardware midplane, is a scalable stretch NVMe fabric, right? So your white box is your system. The midplane is an NVMe fabric. Now I can attach my controllers to it. How many I want? Then I can attach my disk. I can keep adding those disks. Fundamentally, what you're looking at is I've taken that 2U box and I've stretched it to whatever I can imagine, where I have the ability to now keep adding more controllers to get more performance and more drives to get more capacity. This fundamental architecture, then when powered by software stack to deliver object, file, block, gives me the most scalable, sustainable architecture. And the reason I say sustainable, because I'm not tied to a technology. I can reintroduce newer technologies into this architecture, slowly phase out the older ones. It's literally delivering an always-on infrastructure, right? You can scale without limitations, one platform, one experience, and you're future-proofing your investments. That is the value story. When you talk about value, let me explain to you how it works. Right? You start off with the smaller systems, typically 2 controllers, backplane drives. Now if I want more capacity, I can keep granularly adding 2 drives. Oh, I need more. Okay, I'll add more JBOFs. Oh, I need to have a different kind of JBOFs. I need QLC, or new generation of media is coming out. Let me add that. Nothing is stopping me. You could not do this in legacy systems. Oh, I need more performance. I don't need to buy HA systems. I can just add 1 controller. I'm breaking down the paradigm of HA. I'm being more efficient in the resources that I'm going to use and scale more granularly. Not only that, I can add newer generations of CPU into that same infrastructure and keep scaling this. What does this mean? What this delivers is a superior value and a better TCO story. I can reduce my TCO, my spend, by almost 40% by reducing all the over-provisioning capacity that you have locked up in different HA pairs. That's the value story. That is what is appealing to a lot of our customers. That is why they love the MP story. Similarly, when you have this scale-out cluster, now I can create different domains. If I am running 5 different systems that are 40% utilized, and I can consolidate them into a single 8-node cluster, create multiple domains, increase my efficiency, I can reduce the spend by almost 30%. That's huge. In this today's world, when you're talking about OpEx challenged, budget challenged environments, how many of you actually would love to get that 30, 40% back? Raise of hand. Right? And what would you do with that? Invest that 30, 40% back into AI. Areas where you need to invest so that you can bring more optimization to your business. That's the story we need to talk about. A system that can deliver performance, capacity, scale, to meet your different workload needs, different SLAs, whether it's your legacy tier workload, whether it's new cloud-native workloads, you can do everything on the same system. right? And I say this is the main slide that you need to take away with. We are reimagining primary storage. We are breaking down the paradigm of HA. We are breaking down the legacy mold of creating silos. It's a purpose-built cloud-native architecture that allows you to reduce your IT spend by almost 40%. It's AI-powered. With AI Ops, you have the ability to bring in efficiencies, operational efficiencies by about 90%, 98%, so that you can remove the mundane day-to-day tasks that your IT teams are fighting the battles with. And the most important thing that I talked about is you're changing and transforming the ownership experience. And what does this mean? Remember I said it's an always-on infrastructure. That means I don't have to worry about next generation upgrades. I can give you an upgrade on the controller so that you can refresh this without any forklift upgrades, without any migrations, giving you better TCO again. Don't need to buy additional systems and do migrations and create an operational nightmare for you. Imagine the disruptions in your application environments every time you do this. Eliminate all of those bottlenecks, right? Talking about AI Ops, I think you saw this in some of the previous slides and different presentations. One thing I keep saying this, right? If you look at most of the time when you see in the industry, people talk about AI Ops and how it changes the support experience. That is so 10 years. HP did that with InfoSight. What we are talking about is a comprehensive AI Ops capability that no other vendor has today. Yes, support automation is important, bringing in that experience of identifying issues, potential issues, flagging them, and solving that. We have been doing that forever. What I'm talking about is, how do I change the way your workloads are using the system resources? How do I change the way you go about your operational workflows, where if you need to provision a volume today, that takes you 2 weeks, because now you have to figure out where the resources are free, how am I going to meet the SLAs, and where do I provision this, and so on and so forth. I have something called intent-based provisioning. With a single click, I'll tell you exactly where you should put this workload to meet your workload SLAs. Not only that, I have analytics to tell you exactly when your workload performance and SLAs drift and how you can correct them. That's huge. That's AI Ops, right? So AI Ops is more than just support automation. Let's keep that in mind. The other thing I talked about was transformed ownership. And this is something which we bundle it across and say it in the Timeless program. What is the Timeless program? It's very simple. We are so confident about this particular product. We give you 30-day satisfaction guarantee. Try it out. Not only that, right? You see all these vendors talk about, oh, I can do 4:1, 5:1. It's ubiquitous. Everybody does that. We'll give you the same store more guarantee. That is not the differentiation. Differentiation is, I am so confident in this architecture, I'll give you 100% data availability. I will make sure that every time I add new capabilities and new functionalities, you don't have to pay extra for those. All-inclusive licensing. And, like I said, if you go and keep using this system, you can refresh the controllers so that every 3 years, you get the newer controllers to deliver more performance at no extra cost. You're not being paid extra because you're participating in this program. That's the way we call it transformed ownership, right? Delivering better TCO. Again, at the end of the day, the purpose is to deliver value, and the value comes from better TCO story, better operational story, and making it easy. The other thing that keep in mind, and I think you'll hear this from our customer, is since we are breaking this down in architecture in common hardware platform and more software defined, I can take the same software stack and run it in the hyperscaler. All managed centrally through GreenLake Cloud Platform. What does this mean? You're getting the same enterprise capability, reliability, availability, dedupes, data management, so on and so forth, in the cloud. Not only that, you can now have the ability to manage all of those centrally in a single unified, so you don't have to learn the different cloud control planes and their way of managing resources. will take care of all of those things. And for people who 10 years ago were all in on cloud and now looking to repatriate, we can help you do that too. Right? Not only that, we package this as a turnkey solution as part of our private cloud story. Right? Now you have an experience where, including our portfolio of offerings in a private cloud, PC AI, you have an edge solution with HP SimpliVity, you have a core data center solution with Alletra MP B10000, all managed through a private cloud story. Complete edge to cloud story, along with integration of some rich data services like Zerto for those air-gapped customers who are looking to create a Zerto Vault solution. You can now do this taking advantage of the same Alletra MP hardware and architecture and offer a complete story out here with all the rich data management services and Zerto capabilities and integration that we have today. At the end of the day, we are extending the value story not only from our edge to core to cloud, delivering the same enterprise-grade capabilities, availability, giving you the same unified experience for your cloud, for your applications and data services, giving you data mobility and portability between your data centers and in the cloud into edge, and a self-driving experience with AIOps. Not only that, we have a rich ecosystem of all the different things that you will need to run this in your enterprise data centers, right? We have support for the ecosystem. We have support and through APIs and SDKs to help you automate and give you a sustainability story. So if you take one thing out of it today, what I would like to talk about is how HP is reimagining primary storage to deliver superior value, breaking down the legacy silos, breaking down those HA paradigms, making sure that you are able to utilize the resources and get more out of it, not only for legacy workloads, but your modern workloads. All right, with that, let me bring in Alan. Please, round of applause, please. Alan, lovely to have you.
Thank you.
So, Alan, we talked about the story, and we talked about how HP is reimagining primary storage.
Yes.
You are one of the frontier in terms of adopting Alletra MP B10000. Can you tell the team a little bit about your environment and what are your challenges and what led you to looking into MP? What I said right now, does it resonate?
It resonates really well. So we were historically a 3-PAR customer with Blade technology as our compute, and we were having challenges with it being out of support. We were having challenges where it was at 98% capacity on the storage, so we didn't really have anywhere to expand into, so we kept going into the cloud whenever we had a new requirement to come in. Since we've now gone to Alletra MP, where we've been able to not only reduce our footprint from a storage capacity, but because of the dedupe that goes on top, we're getting around 30% dedupe, so we've got capacity now where we can look at where things are running and repatriate where we need to from that. And then from a footprint size as well, we went from 1.5 physical cabs of compute and storage down to 1/3 of a cab.
So let me reiterate what Alan just said, right? All-time HP customer, appreciate the business. You saw the value in the architecture. You spend a lot of time moving some workloads into the cloud, but with MP, it helps you get better efficiency and better TCO story.
Yes. So we was able to do all of that, but it gives us the optionality because hardware has caught up. Hardware vendors have caught up with what the cloud was offering. We're able to make decisions where before it was always cloud first. We're now looking at cloud sensible and being able to utilize on-premise as much as cloud and make the right decisions. So one of the workloads we repatriated was costing us £30,000 a month. Over the course of 3 years, that's now paid for the refresh of the server and storage that we've just invested in.
So I know you've talked about this at length, but just so that we can get the audience, when you started looking at MP, can you explain what went through in terms of the vetting process? How did you go about it? And what are some of the challenges that you saw and how did you overcome that?
So the challenges we saw was making sure whatever we put in was fit for purpose and the future. We're a specialist bank, so we have quite a diverse customer base. And one of the principles that we use is a best in both class from a data and tech combined with best of people. But what we want to try and do is make the most use of people and not have them do mundane manual tasks and let automation and compute take care of that. So whatever solution we were looking for, it needed to have that in mind. It needed to be able to flex as we needed to with the demands of the business. We get a lot of left field requirements come over. We've done 3 acquisitions over the last 3 years, and now we're able to move a lot faster and with a lot more stability because of the Electra MP and the partnership we had with HPE in designing it. We went a whole day in the CIC in London. We had various people from HPE. They heard of all our requirements, and then they presented back what they thought that we would need.
So we looked at your requirements, we came back to you with the proposal, and then you started POCing it. Can you explain, like, how did you go about it?
They came back with the proposal. We questioned, first of all, the capacity, because we went from a 3-PAR which had 600 terabytes in total raw, and then the proposal only had 450 terabytes. And we're like, are you sure this is right, considering we're already at 98%, and we want to have enough room to grow as well? And they explained how the dedupe work, and it came back and it was correct. We had a POC, and to be fair to HPE as well, they even gave a guarantee that this is what we're recommending. If it doesn't actually fit that, we'll give you the extra capacity free of charge.
Lovely. And lastly, what more are you looking for?
So we're continuing with the repatriation exercise. The VM Essentials will be interesting to see how that evolves. I mean, everyone here that's in a virtualized environment that is using a well-known hypervisor is probably going through the same economic struggles as a lot of people. So yes, it's in its infancy, but I think it could be a real player going forward, and something that we could definitely look forward to.
Any final takeaways or recommendation for the audience?
My recommendation would be to give HPE the time when they're trying to design something, rather than us thinking this is what we want. There's so much technology that we're not aware of that can be offered. Zerto came out of the design workshop as well, because we had a requirement for resilience, and we get the security benefit over the top. So my takeaway is invest the time, give HPE your full requirements, and then see what the proposal is.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Alan. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for being a loyal customer.
Cheers. Thank you.
You know, and what Alan said, that are some of the challenges that most of you guys are going to have in some ways or the other, right? And it is time for us to think about this in different ways, because the IT world, like, remember what I talked about, storage was a repository, to now the definition of storage is a creator of value. You cannot have the same evaluation story to say, I need this storage, I need this much capacity, I need to deliver this much IOPS. Like I said, every vendor is going to do that. But if you think about it strategically in terms of what are you trying to accomplish, we at HPE can help you. We are the only company that has the breadth when it comes to portfolio. We have the compute, the network, the storage, the cloud operations through GreenLake Cloud Platform. That 3-layer cake that I talked about, and all the way we can package this and service this and give you turnkey solutions, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, different ways you can consume this storage. That is the difference and the value of what HPE brings to the table. So beyond the product value, we are here to help you navigate some of your IT challenges. And I talk about this from a customer perspective, right? One thing I like to do, I like to go through holistically and ask the customers, what are you trying to solve for? And 99.99%, this checklist solves that thing, right? It tells you exactly what are the kind of questions that come in asking. Most customers are looking for ways to, first thing, I want predictable performance. It's a storage system at the end of the day, right? It needs to have integrated data protection and security policies. I need to make sure that I'm taking advantage of the latest innovation, whether it's NVMe or no, right? I need the ecosystem because my application needs different support systems, right? It has to have this enterprise support or this proactive support that we talk about using AI ops. It has to have the typical enterprise reliability, availability, and that's what we do with 100% data availability guarantee. It has to have simple cloud-based operations. Now, a lot of you guys, when you're talking about cloud-based operations and you are saying that we have an air-gap environment and all those things, I understand that. But that does not mean you can't take advantage of those operational model of cloud. We will give you the same solution in your data center. You saw that in the announcement today, right? Not only that, if you are looking to get that same experience, but you want to take advantage of the analytics in the cloud, we'll give you a read-only option. Because it's a matter of enabling you to get to the outcomes that you're looking for. We have the story, we have the offering, we have the products, we have the technology. AI ops is the way to go, as Alan was talking about, in terms of how we can bring in those operational efficiencies to make your life busy. We have been doing this for years. We have millions and millions of data points that are coming in. We have built this high AI engine. It would be a shame that you don't want to use it, right? I'm like, if someone makes my life easy, why would I say no? Right? It's a true hybrid cloud platform, and what I mean by that is I have taken the pains to build this architecture, decouple the hardware layer from the software stack. I have taken this pain to give you this cloud control and operations. I have the ability now to take the software and run it in cloud and hypervisors in your colos, give you a true hybrid cloud platform that can scale dynamically, that can give you non-disruptive operations, can give you data in place upgrades as technology evolves. That is the checklist. Not only that, now you go onto the procurement side and the business side of it, and the checklist changes a little bit. I, as an enterprise or a company, I have the sustainability goals. How are you allowing me to mitigate that? How are you allowing me to accomplish those goals? My company has a model where I have to go and pay it as an OpEx. We can do that through HP Financial Services and our GreenLake Flex services. Right? We can give you the TCO so that your procurement team makes sure that you get the best price. Right? It is an investment protection story. It is a technology story. It is a value story. And that's why it's time to take this a different approach, right? An enterprise storage architecture that is designed for the future. I think it's time that we move away from the legacy storage HA architectures. And it's going to be interesting how the market reacts to this, because the value of disaggregated and the architecture is proven. I can give you the quants. I can save you on an average 30–40% easily. The dynamics and the arguments goes away from now, oh, I do flash, I do dedupe and compression. That is ubiquitous. That needs to change. We are in the new age of data. We are in the new age of storage. And we need to look at storage differently. So I strongly recommend all the customers out here, take a look at MP, all our partners, sell the value of architecture and the outcomes that our customers can achieve, and so does to our HP sellers out here. It's time to think about this differently. It's a different approach. It's a hybrid cloud approach, one experience delivering increased value. All right, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming in.